Nice to meet you all. My name is Gergő Zsolt Kékesi. When I'm not working as a feature test architect at Ericsson, I like to spend time in the kitchen. I love to cook. On HasTep, I'm going to share some lessons I've learned in the kitchen that I've applied to create a testing ecosystem.
I'm usually happy and positive about my work, and I like challenges too. This is why I've chosen to talk to you about the Cloud Execution Environment project at Ericsson. It's Openstack based with millions of code lines produced every year, changes by 1,000 developers last year. Real challenges in verification. Just like in the kitchen. Rarely do we have the luxury of taking our time. Usually it's a rush to get everything on the table. Sometimes we have no idea what the final dish should look like. We work from minimum input requirements and have to figure out what the customer really wants. Then we have to implement it, verify it, and deliver it as soon as possible. And too often, as soon as possible means yesterday. We have all sorts of cooks in the kitchen, everyone contributing their skills to the final product. Everyone is working flat out to meet the deadline. It happens. We make mistakes. But let's see what we can do to prevent them. To ease the pressure on ourselves so that we can enjoy the process and cook efficiently. Let's start with the minimum input requirements. Imagine being asked to bake a cake, or cook some pork, or make some pasta. Simple one-line requirements that could mean anything. In my work, I've been asked to enable IPv6 on X type of interface. I've been asked to allow the upgrade of a component from Y version to Z. And I've seen 2 words as a requirement: to do. Whether you are implementing a feature or a test, you want to see more than vague one-liner requirements. If you don't know what kind of cake to bake, or how they like their pork cooked, or what kind of pasta they fancy, how can you deliver what your clients want? The worst thing you can say here is that it's none of my business. Too often, we try to work from minimum requirements. For some reason, we are reluctant to ask questions. But if we don't know what we are cooking, we can't possibly figure out what ingredients we need or how long we need to cook it for. When I get a one-liner as a requirement, the first thing I do is to contact the requirement author. I'm not really looking for the author, but for the customer behind them. I want to know what the customer's motivation is. Is it a celebratory dinner? What feature do they really want? A simple apple pie or a 4-tier wedding cake? What is the use case? Is it a meal for 2 or an extravagant party? What I really want to figure out is what will maximize the value for them. Now that I know what they want, I have to be sure they know what they don't want. I don't want them ordering pasta and then changing their mind just as I'm ready to plate it. I write down everything that is out of scope. I've had to restart the conversation too many times. You've had it happen too, right? When your customer says, "I didn't think about it earlier, but now I think I need." I know what the customer wants. I know what they don't want. I'm clear about the requirement. But where can I include the requirement, feature, or test in the system? Here again, we need questions. We need to play devil's advocate. My favorite questions are: where is the impact? What will I destroy if I implement it? Who should I warn about it to avoid them screaming at me, "What happened with my test?" I know what the customer wants. I know what they don't want. I know where it goes in the system. I'm ready to start cooking. But wait. Let's not forget the documentation. Documentation is usually not mentioned as part of requirement. It's one of those things we all know we should do, but it's not written anywhere. We all know we need to wash our hands before we handle food. We know it. We don't need to be told it. In the same way, we would never deliver something to our customers without describing how to use it. It may not seem like, but we've already started preparing our dish. To know the impact, we have to analyze the system, check its components, check the code, check what documentation we might need to update. We are ready now to write the ingredients part of the recipe, the proposal and resource estimates. I usually start by writing down the steps that need to be implemented in bullet points. For instance, in the case of introducing a new test tool. This gives me a high-level view. If you are experienced enough, you'll be able to use these bullet points to derive estimates. You've done this before. When you use the same recipe again and again, you can judge for yourself how much sugar or salt to add. If you don't have a gut feeling about the implementation costs, you need to detail them. If I'm not sure about the time a project will take, I usually define a range. For instance, 5 to 10 weeks. When my manager asks why 5 to 10 weeks, I say it's because I see uncertainties. I tell them that I need to detail the implementation for a more accurate estimation. But I don't wait until I have a really good estimate. I try to start the work because the closer I get to the finish line, the more confident I am about how long it will all take. If you are new to any kitchen, don't be afraid of asking for clarification. Be sure you know what your customer wants before you start cooking. Find the requirement author and work with them to build a questionnaire, a list, a procedure, anything that will help you next time. Get the recipe right the first time, and you can use it again and again. No one likes to wait for ages on an empty stomach. We like our food to be served quickly. In our world, fast delivery is about efficiency. When I'm in the kitchen, I want all the spices I need close to hand. In the same way, I want to be able to find every piece of information I need to implement my test case in one place. The requirement, the implementation proposal, and the code. What? I hear you ask. You want to see the code? But how can you create an independent black box test case if you have seen the code? I believe that the time for waiting for perfectly detailed requirements has long gone. We can't hang around waiting. We need to act. And in this one place, I must be able to include the test plan, the test case code, and the test result. If my test case is failing on the master, then everyone must be able to find the related information easily. If someone asks how I verify the feature, I want to be able to show the test case source code immediately. Everything I need in one place. We know what the customer wants. We know what they don't want. We are clear about the requirement. We are clear about the documentation. We are ready to build a system. We are ready to cook. Let's build this system now. We are going to need some utensils, some tools. A long time ago we used Excel and Word to keep track of the requirements. I hope I never ever face them again. What I need for requirements is a tool that will adapt to my needs. A tool I can create processes in as I want. A tool that gives me templates for test plans and test reports, plans and reports that are automatically generated once a requirement is created. I need a tool that connects the feature and testing source code. A tool that helps me plan and visualize dependencies with other requirements. Sounds like I'm asking for a lot, but there are many different alternatives available. We chose Jira. Think of it as a food processor. It can chop, slice, mix, dice, puree. It can do everything. Source code management is as necessary to cooking as salt, as necessary to baking as sugar. It's a must. No need for any explanation. Version control is necessary for both your product and your test code. Our choice was Git. As we cook, we taste, we test to make sure that our ingredients are working together. As a test coordinator, you dream of static tests, of syntax checks, of unit or component tests created by your developers that are triggered automatically. You want to find the faults as early as possible. If you are lucky and use open source components, then you have a high chance of finding existing unit or component test frameworks that you can reuse. If not, then work with your developers to introduce one. At the very least, use the readily available static code checkers. When we try different recipes, we adjust them to suit our taste. We need to document these changes so that we remember for next time. And if someone else comes into our kitchen and wants to see what we've done, what changes we've made, they need to be able to see and understand those changes as easily as possible. There are many great collaboration tools that manage workflows, help you to easily compare different patch sets of the same code, enable discussion on them, enable raising questions, and to visualize later actions that the author modified based on your comments. This helps you to deliver human feedback and have a quality gate as well. One of these tools is Gerrit. We use Gerrit to review the test code and to teach others via these reviews. I collect reviews that I feel would be helpful for others to learn from, to improve the test materials based on them, or to make the test code clearer and more obvious. We use these examples to demo what to implement and what to avoid. And yes, the review process is really time-consuming, but in the end, you'll have a batch of new experts. Sure, it's always quicker to bake the cake yourself than to show others how to bake it, but when lots of people know how to do it, life gets easier. If you choose to introduce a code review procedure in your project, define your rules for the review. In Gerrit, you can vote on the code changes. You can allow it to be sent to the master, or you can disagree with it and block it. Think of it as a taste test. 0 is somewhat neutral. Tastes okay, but you are not mad about it. -1 means the code has issues, please fix it, there's something missing. -2 says that this code must not be merged. No way you can serve up this dish to anyone. It kills. +1 shows it's fine, but others should also check. You like it, but it might not be to everyone's taste. +2, the code is fine, merge it, serve it. Search for how to review changes the Openstack way to learn more. Now let me tell you the worst review practice that I've ever faced. Giving my code -2 and telling me no in the comments is like telling me my dish can't be served to anyone. It doesn't tell me anything more. I'm not getting feedback on what the problem is with my code, and because it's a -2, Gerrit won't allow me to merge. I'm completely blocked. If you introduce a review procedure, avoid this. If you give -2, it's your responsibility to remove the -2 as soon as possible. Gerrit was created to manage and serve Git. It also has many free plugins. It can trigger Jenkins to execute any kind of test. You can remember those static tests and syntax checks, unit or component tests, and even function tests. These can vote automatically on the reviews. This is fast and valuable feedback. We have code. We can review it. We can trigger tests automatically. Now all we have to do is to connect the requirements. And of course, Jira has a plugin for Gerrit. Create a requirement in Jira. Jira automatically creates test plan. Fill in your test plan with the required information. Create the code change. Add and commit to Git the code change. Git push it to Gerrit. Review your code change in Gerrit. Tag your Jira ticket in the commit message. See that automatic test vote back. Get +2 from your colleague. Submit your code. Check that your code change appeared in Jira. Send it for approval of your test coordinator. You are done. Okay, we have requirements to test. We have the machine. Go developers, go testers, use it. Create test cases. Easy, isn't it? You've done your job, or have you? Let me tell you my story. I was audited several times according to ISO 9001. I tried to learn from these audits and include the findings in my test plan or test report templates. I ended up with 19 chapters and subchapters. I wanted details about test strategies, test descriptions, affected components, hardware, configuration changes, etc. Just imagine the size of it. Who would have time to fill in my template? Then I started thinking how I could help my people and satisfy ISO 9001. For me, the ISO audit searches for proof that you've assured the quality of your delivery. Your test is connected to the feature. You can reproduce your results. Would our testing ecosystem help here? Think about how many of these requirements it fulfills. From Jira, we can see the requirements. We can see the implementation proposals. We can find the code, the test cases and the reviews. You can reproduce the results. The only thing missing is where to store the execution logs. I give this to you as homework. Using our testing ecosystem, I cut my templates down from 19 to 5 chapters focusing on impact, plan test cases, special hardware or software needs, open test issues, and test results. Speaking from my CEE kitchen, I recommend you ask your customer what is they really want. Be clear about the requirement. Use tools that can work together and create one chain. And think about how you can help your colleagues. Jó étvágyat! Bon appétit!